Okay, moving along. We have a couple group discussions today that we'll partake in. We'll continue talking about concept evaluation, other sort of considerations, things we have to take into account when assessing our new ideas for a new product or new service, right? The process itself too. Do we start pushing out promotions if we're not fully satisfied with maybe if we've accepted a concept or an idea for a new product as well. So we'll talk about the ACTAR model. We'll learn what that is, right? Using that kind of model to systematically process, right, whether we should proceed or move forward with our ideas. Okay, where do we leave off? Okay, we have things, planning and evaluation system. We got four concepts here. One is just a rolling or tentative evaluation. It's not really a yes or no. We accept the idea or the concept to move forward. It's like, it depends. At each stage, we should stop and evaluate. What are some considerations at each point? Do we have the budget for this concept to proceed? Let's communicate with our marketing department, our finance department. Do we have the suppliers necessary to even move forward with this idea? Right? Is it feasible? Is it something that actually part of the demand? And then we have potholes, and we have the people domain of planning evaluation. We have surveys to consider. Here we're given a hypothetical representation on empirical data of various sources in terms of the mortality of new product ideas, right? So we say, hey, depending on the number of ideas on the y-axis, will determine how much a product actually succeeds in terms of loss, right? So this first one, curve A, slow decay carries ideas along. So we say, hey, having too many ideas is a bad thing, right? Having this sort of a moderate number appears to be more feasible in continuance of the process. Curve B tends to be more of an average decay, and curve C, we say this one is rapid decay, right? Avoid the above costs, right? So you kind of like, hey, you know, the lower we get on the number of ideas, the development costs we may potentially avoid. Everything is tentative, right? Everything is tentative with this kind of rolling idea framework. We're like, hey, project is assessed continuously rather than a single go-no-go decision. We have to consider the financial analysis, the need to build up things continuously, right? Each kind of component to our product has a different cost dimension to it, something that we have to consider. There may be not enough information, right? Early on for complex financial analysis. This is risky. Like, okay, we don't have too much empirical evidence because the product itself is not finalized, and maybe there's nothing out there that's completely like it. So now we're kind of getting to the territory of calculated risk, right? So something to consider in the financial analysis. You run the risk of killing off too many good ideas early, right? Like here, you're like, if things are tentative and you're not saying no or yes, and you start to pull in too many ideas because it's not really a zero-sum game, you're like, okay, well, you kind of run the risk of killing off too many good ideas early. Or you just kind of get too many good ideas, right? And then it kind of becomes chaotic. Marketing begins in early process, right? So as new ideas come along, you start to say, well, how can this product be marketed in an effective way, right? How can it be marketed? Right? At each step of your idea or concept, because you have to continuously come up with new approaches to the product, and looking at the different elements of the product. And then the key, new product participants avoid good bad mindsets and avoid premature closure with this rolling evaluation. Potholes. Hey, know what the really damaging problems are for your firm and focus on one of the So it may not even be the market that has a problem, it may be the company that has a problem. Maybe it doesn't have enough people to support the idea. Maybe your departments aren't really communicating in a concerted way to make actually things work and be streamlined. Right, so you need to evaluate too, you're at the firm level, so you can focus on what the issues are. Too many people are on the wrong page, nothing ever gets done, and no idea ever really comes to fruition. Okay, so Campbell Soup kind of focuses on this. So Campbell Soup focuses on manufacturing cost and taste, right? So Campbell Soup says, hey, you know what, we keep it simple. Same old can, maybe a little bit different advertisement, possibly, but the advertisement has to be in some sort of normative way to where people recognize that it's Campbell Soup and not anything else from far away, right? But the focus on the taste. Taste would mean the focus on the richness of flavors and things of that nature, right? As opposed to anything else. Campbell Soup is not concerned with coming up with a new can, right? A new container for that matter. They're concerned with, hey, beat out the competitors on cost, make sure the manufacturing keeps the cost low, and use systems that's already been in place, and then just focus on new flavors or tastes. Right? In the sense that, hey, you know, if people are already accustomed to the taste of Campbell's soup, right? That's not a difficult job. Right? You just add maybe a couple new ingredients and voila, you have a whole different new line of Campbell's soups. All right, other examples, right? Where you focus on something. Here we say drug companies focus on FDA approval. They can come up with all sorts of drugs, but unfortunately, it may not meet the criteria that the Food and Drug Administration requires in order to move to the next step. So like, hey, pharmaceutical companies want to focus on getting approved by the FDA. The FDA has kind of strict protocols, and you need to meet those requirements. Software developers. Software developers may focus on consumer unwillingness to learn how to use complex software, right? Apple is good at that. Apple is good at simplifying, right? Not everybody is tech savvy, and not everybody even wants to do too many steps in any kind of technological way. Most people have a preference with technological simplicity. Right? So Apple there is creating interfaces and process, which eliminates the number of steps to do things that are get you to a final goal. Now others are not maybe concerned with that. I don't know if Samsung is primarily concerned with how easy it is to do something. I think Samsung is more open source, and their focus is like give people as many options as possible. Right? Different strategy. We're coming up with different software, products, things like that. Right? Samsung may be focused on allowing people to be more expressive as a device user, as a software user, as an application user. Allow people to kind of personalize their experience with the phone. You can tweak your phone in a gazillion ways, and people like that. Right? Whereas Apple users, like now, we're kind of limited to types of wallpapers you can have that actually look decent on the screen, the functionality with the apps. And so kind of limited in many different ways. But most of us like that because we got busy lives and we don't have all the time in the world to fidget with our phones. So we prefer things that are simple and that maybe the company navigates and shapes the marketplace on how people use phones. So Apple is more of a seller-controlled approach. They want to control how people use the control, not letting consumers control how to use the phone. All right, people. Another sort of dimension of this, right? Evaluating. We say, hey, people, the proposal may be hard to stop once there is buy-in on the concept. Another challenge. You're like, all right, when people and the corporation has bought into the concept, it may be hard to stop at some point, even if it's financially All right, nothing but personal risk associated with new product development, right? Or you're like, hey, personal risk would be maybe your job is at stake. You're working with an organization, and you're part of the creative team, the marketing team, and you're like, all right, I'm pushing up all these new great concepts. If it fails, so there's probably the risk that you could lose your job, right? One, because you didn't consider all these various aspects before pushing that narrative of the product, right? There's a personal risk. I would say another additive to that on the personal risk would be on the consumer side, where companies have taken risky sort of approaches to coming up with new ideas without consideration of personal safety for customers. And we see a lot of companies kind of run into issues with lawsuits and toy manufacturers not considering the toxic materials that they choose to use in toys and things that children put in their mouth or can permeate the skin, something of the sort. So there's sort of another risk there too. Right? And that's risk either to individuals who are responsible for promoting that product or conceptualizing that product, or maybe the organization itself, right? CEOs, CFOs, things like that. Another one, need system that protects developers and offers reinsurances if warranted, right? So they're like, all right, at some point, we may not be manufacturing the product. We come up with the idea, the schematics to the product. We send it out to developers to develop the product for us, right? They need some sort of reinsurance. One, are you going to pay them if you decide not to continue with their services? Will they still get paid if you decide not to employ the idea, the product, push it out? Right? Because they also have to run their businesses there too, right? So something that protects developers needs to be put in place. So hence you want to have good relationships with developers throughout the product implementation. Surrogates. So we can ask surrogate questions as opposed to real questions that can give us clues to real answers. Here we're giving a real question of will they prefer it? Right? Surrogate question, like kind of follow-up will be, hey, did they keep the prototype product we gave them after the concept test? Right? So let's say we're in the business of just being a marketing consultant. Right? And we are the consultants. We come up with ingenious, innovative ideas for companies. We come up with innovative ideas for them to create products, look at the markets, look at demand, all of these sorts of things. At some point, we have to consider what happens at each stage, right? So here we say the surrogate question is, hey, did they keep the prototype product we gave them after the concept test? Right? Kind of a follow-up question on who will prefer, right? Which companies will have a preference to it? We have to follow up. Another real question, will cost be competitive? Does it match our manufacturing skills? So here we're kind of talking about if you're a manufacturing company, if you say come up with the concept generation for prototypes and products, but you're also going to manufacture it too, you have the manufacturing component to the company, does it match your skills? Are you able to put out as much possible at a low cost? And kind of in a standardized way, right? We say standardized, we want to make it to the point where we can push out a bazillion units, the lowest cost feasible. If you're like things are too complex and we can't do that, then we're running into some issues. What do we do then? Another real question, will competition leap in? Right? I think I mentioned this in another course, but like, hey, Apple follows Even when you think of things like virtual reality, Apple didn't enter that space quickly enough, right? Hence why Facebook, Meta, right, kind of took the leadership on that, as well as Microsoft, right? VR headsets. Apple wanted to wait. Apple didn't really believe in it. They wanted to see the response from customers. And they missed the ball on it, right? So Apple's been struggling to try to keep up with augmented reality, the AR piece, right? And with the AR piece, you're like, okay, how will we integrate software and applications into the phones where people can show furniture that they want to buy from IKEA in their house, and it conforms to the dimension of the space, augmented reality. How will we show characters in a real environment as opposed to creating a fake environment, like with VR. VR is like, are we scripted, right? And AR is like layering over things on top of the real environment. Tricky. So Apple kind of missed the ball on that. They waited to kind of see the response. So for them, yeah, competition, beat into it, lead in, right? Some other things you can ask is a surrogate question, hey, what did they do last time, right? Past generally is a good predictor for future events. So you could look in the past and see what did the competitors do last time, right? And then navigate you on maybe getting ahead of the curve on where the potential is going. And a real question will be, will it sell? Right? Will our product, our new concept sell? Information we can have based on a certain question, did it do well in the field testing? Right? So you don't just throw out a product in there full scale. You say, let's have a limited amount that we produce, let's say 100, and we will test it in various markets, do some field testing, see how people respond to the product, and then we go from there. Right? Okay, we see that people really love, there's good feedback, we've recorded them, the behavior, we've gotten surveys, focus group information, and we say, okay, it did well in the field testing, let's proceed. It did bad in field testing, cut that concept off. Right? That one died. Proceed to the next. All right, and we have our ATAR model, right? The ATAR, A-T-A-R model, we say is awareness, availability, trial, and repeat. Right? This is our definitions. The buying unit component here we're talking about is the model of innovation diffusion. What we're talking about, profit per unit is equal to revenue per unit minus cost per unit, right? So here we're like, okay, let's create a product that is profitable, right? It may not be the most innovative product, but it may be the most basic demanded product in some category. So we're concerned here with profit, right? And here we're just given a simple equation, profit is revenue per unit minus cost per unit, right? How much you're getting versus how much does it cost to produce. Okay, profits equal unit sold times profit per unit. Unit sold is equal to the number of buying units, right? Times the percentage of aware of the product, percentage of who would try product if they would get it, right? The percentage to whom product is available to, and then we repeat this metric, right? It's the average number of units bought per person per year, including the repeats, like how many times have they repurchased this product, right? Repeater buys. Usually these are for standardized products, things, household goods. You're gonna buy the same stuff throughout the year, right? Toilet paper, toothpaste, things that you need all the time, things that you're thinking like gasoline for your car, your electric vehicle. We talk about electricity. We talk about tires you may need for a vehicle, right? Things that can be repeated throughout the year, standardized products. So our first definition here for the ATAR model is the buying unit component, right? Purchase person or department buying center. Right? So we're concerned of people within our organization whenever we work with suppliers and distributors to negotiate, to say, at what critical point can we get the cheapest cost for this product so that we can put it out there to increase our product mix. We want to be aware, has heard about the new product with some characteristics that differentiate us, right? So even for customers, like part of this is, are we aware about some characteristic that differentiates it, right? We have the concept out there, we're getting ready to heavily promote it. Customers should know something about this product that differentiates it from other products in order to increase demand. Availability, if the buyer wants to try the product, the effort to find it will be successful, right? We can express that as kind of a percentage amount. For just first-time buyers, people who just want to see what the product is about, right? How available is it? Are we making it difficult for them to try it? If not, then they'll never really get exposed to it to a degree that they would attempt to buy it at least one time to give it a shot. Trial usually means a purchase or consumption of the product, right? So that kind of goes into availability. We want to get people a trial to purchase and consume the product. And you can do it in many ways. You're like, all right, maybe you just put something out there where you get free samples, maybe you attach it to another product, buy this one, you get this one for free. We can have different kind of strategies with that. Right? Or the durability, right? The durables, the repeaters, right? Product is bought at least once more or recommended to others. That word of mouth is important. Right? So we want to see if a product has the ability for people to recommend it to others and that they at least buy it twice. Right? Because if you buy it once and stop buying it, that's a good indicator that customers don't care for it that much. But if you buy it twice, we could reasonably assume that, hey, that first experience that they held that was good enough, that they'll buy it a second time. And maybe we can kind of tweak, like, how come they're not buying it more than twice? Because the price was set, is it bad promotion? Do we not have enough touching points for them to kind of see it everywhere? We can have some sort of conversation about that. All right, so they give us some sort of application to this model, right? We're talking about profits. Here we're looking at, wow, we made $33 million, 33 and a half, close to it, $1 million in profits, right? How do we break this down? 10 million number of owner of video cell phones, right? We just say smartphones. 10 million number of owners of smartphones. The percentage of awareness after 1 year about a potentially new smartphone that you're coming out with, or the features and characteristics, right? That would be good data to have. The percent of aware owners who will try the product, right? We can do that focus group surveys. Will you try this if it has these features? This new phone has these features. Are you willing to try it? 1/5 of the market says yes, right? 20%. Percent availability at electronic retailers, right? Right, that's important for us to kind of reasonably integrate into this model. Right? We want to say at what percentage will be available at electronic retailers, so people buy most of their electronic devices, whether it's online or brick and mortar, what have you. And then measure of repeat. 20% of customers buy a second phone, right? So here we're kind of giving the extra 20% off more than just the one phone, right? And then price per unit minus trade margins and discounts. So like, hey, depending on the amount of things that we produce, we get a discount, right? The discount price per unit. So value matters here. So we say price per unit minus trade margins discount $100 kind of a profit margin strategy in order to focus on the innovation of a product and promoting it out there just based on this simple data, right? Awareness, availability, repeat customers, and maybe that relates to the discounts that we would have provided our relationships with our manufacturers. Now, this is a lot of forecasting, and forecasting, as we know, is never perfect, right? Forecasting is just that, reasonable assumptions based on reasonable information from maybe past or current responses from customers. So, it could be somewhat flawed, right? So we say, hey, each factor is subject to estimation. So everything we take in, we have to kind of estimate at each point. Estimates improve with each step in the development phase. Like as we develop and get better information, our estimations get a little bit more credible, a little bit more to realistic figures. Right? Maybe we are a bit overconfident in some of the way we analyze this information about customers' willingness to buy certain things and how much they will buy. An adequate profit forecast can be improved by changing factors and doing a what-if analysis, right? Like a what-if analysis. What if there's new legislation that impacts the economy, shakes up the economy? What if we have to restructure this whole evaluation technique? You know, what we have to do. So a profit forecast is inadequate. Look at each factor and see which can be improved and at what cost. Example, for retail margins be increased to increase distributions, for more advertising spending lead to more awareness. Those are things we have to consider. Should we put more marketing budget behind something at some point in the process? Will that change those figures, change the demand? And consider other qualitative issues as well, right? Things in execution of our marketing efforts, especially advertising, because we would put out some poor advertising and that has changed the demand for it. Like, okay, that went flat. People perceive a different product now that was completely off the mark of what we intended. Customers just responded in different ways. Okay. Let's do this. Have a couple of discussion questions, and then we have one word to share. All right, two discussion questions actually. Hey, so within your groups, talk about how will you determine whether a concept solves a real perceive one? What kind of information or strategy should you employ to get, kind of get that result? Two, what evidence would convince you that a target market truly wants this product? What kind of evidence would you need to support that claim, right? So, see what you come up with, think of the endless possibilities with these as much as possible, and we'll discuss it. I'll give you a couple minutes within your groups to talk about that. So maybe today YouTube would be a
first semester we did, it was most of it.
Because people want, like, customer, customer feedback, on the product, that was it. He wants to see practice. That relates, but, yeah.
Yeah, we practice,
And then you just solve the problem.
we practice,
Solve the problem.
Saturday, Sunday on the actual field, and then Friday, client just parents and stuff. So they're awesome, they have like a beach, not a beach, they have like their, and so we practice, which makes really sense because Friday is.
You wanna use more time? Right, think of this idea, especially when it comes to like things online, reality versus perception. Think of this, like, hey, like, subscribe, share. If you just like it, does it mean you really like all that content? Or is it just specific to that one thing, right? If you subscribe, is this more of a determination or evidence that you really like all of the stuff that this person kind of provides? Right? You might need more information from that. You're just like, hey, this is just impulsive, that was one time, it was just a mood. But now I'll probably never watch anything you ever put up ever again. So I don't really like it. I kind of like it right now for this moment. But I don't really like maybe the brand, right? Or other things. So it's like, at what depth of analysis do you determine that someone really likes it? You know, is it like you need more information, you write it out, spell out why they like it, or just like a like is enough information to determine if people really like something? What were your thoughts?
For the first question, we thought like you really just have to test the market. Like an issue to me is not the same issue to you. So for me to create a product, like you're obviously like just like there's so many different factors like socioeconomic, geographical, depending on where you live, where I live, how much you make, I make. Like a problem to me might not be one to you. So for me to go make a product and launch it, it might not hit the right crowd if I go sell it in like the wrong neighborhood or go to the wrong people. So I guess like the whole idea of it being like a real customer problem or a perceived one just depends on who you're showing it to.
Okay, and maybe the way that you do like, well, maybe the market that you're testing it in and how you're testing it. Right, and like, okay, is it a trade show where people get to really see it, touch it, tell you every little detail about why they like something or they don't like, or is it something more simple than that, right? Just put it on display in certain neighborhoods and have people buy it or not, and say sales will determine what people really like. Right? And then for the second one,
He said a big indicator of that is if you get repeat customers. An example I gave is like my family owns a coffee shop and when we launch a new drink, it's super popular for like a week. And then it
I'll
dies.
take it off.
Yeah, so then, it's like an indicator if people keep coming back for it, it means we're doing something right, they actually do like that product.
Yeah.
Versus after a week or like 2 weeks, it's just hype, you know what I mean?
All right, so you're like, hey, that's probably strong enough evidence. Buy it once, curiosity, but if you don't buy it again, you're like, okay, this was just curiosity, right, what it tastes like. Buy it twice, maybe there's more less that you like it. So repeat purchase might be strong, good enough evidence to support that people really like it. Right? As to a perception of, oh, that sounds tasty, right, that sounds wonderful. Okay, good example. So yeah, I know, so they own a coffee shop.
Yeah, we're franchising.
Um,
Franchising that is actually so.
How difficult is the business of running a coffee shop in terms of being profitable?
Right now,
penetration by exposure.
Yeah, like,
Right.
you can't ignore us, and then you're.
Can't ignore us, we can be everywhere, and that's maybe the beginning strategy, or maybe it changes over time.
Yeah.
Right? Because also too, like scaling, I don't know if you know, but, Wendy's is closing.
Basically, sort of.
Yeah, 300 stores, right? Why? Because, I don't know, it's just maybe at the wrong locations or something, but they're figuring out that just have too many locations, right? So yeah, they gotta go to the drawing board, figure out, is it the menu, locations, is it the hours they're open, is it not, they're buying certain things, I don't know. Okay, what were your thoughts with that first question?
We thought about like surveys. Basically, the big thing with both of the questions is feedback. But like for example, for me, like I went around class and asked people what they would pay for my hoodie. So you just have like a pop-up that they do at Costco, or you just go to some like heavily populated area, and you just have your product there, and have people come up and pitch that their product or whatever. I think you'll be able to determine pretty well if like other people have similar issues that your product can solve. So I guess it's similar to what they're saying too, like testing the market, just like on a really small scale.
So let's say what your hoodies, like, do you think is good enough information to hold it up and ask people, hey, what do you think? Pass it around, right? Touch it, what you think? Or do you think it's better information to like, wear it for 2 weeks? Come back and tell me what you think. Right, and maybe like, hey, testing the market's like, the people I know that probably will wear this the most often, let them have it. Wear it for, I don't know, 2 weeks, a month, right? And they start like, yo, I like this, this matches like everything. Or I like to look how it pairs with boots and blah, blah, blah. And then like, okay, my advertising, my marketing moving forward, I have to display this with jeans and boots of a certain looking type of person. You know what I mean? So as opposed to like, do you like it? Yeah, that looks cool, right? And it feels great. You might be like, can't have for free, let particular people wear it for a while.
I think that's a good idea too. I actually thought about that too for my clothes, but even just like any product, like giving it to somebody for free and going into the brand, you know what I'm saying, having them experience it firsthand, for them to come back and purchase it the second time.
Yeah.
Is like, like they really need this product.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it can't work, right? To start like from the ground up, right? And actually, who here is a Biggie fan? Notorious Big. Who likes Biggie? Right, that was one of the strategies Biggie did a long time ago. It's like his first album is he just gave it to everybody in New York on the street for free. People are like, why are you doing that? You're diluting your product at the store. You get it for free on the street. Why would you somebody pay $20? And he was like, well, if the streets will tell me if they like the music, that's the greatest evidence I need to know the market of who to promote it with when I give it to all the giant distributors, right, in California, Florida, all these things. So he was like, that's better information than you say, just put it up in the stores on the shelf, right? No, there's better information, like the people about hip hop, how they feel about it. Okay. All right, excellent. Anything else you want to add to that?
not for the first one, but for the second one, like what evidence, like I said, just people coming back.
Okay, so repeat purchases, right? To get an indicator.
So for the first question, we kind of talked about like having product testers for like R&D purposes, where you get like a prototype test and then you get feedback based off of that. Maybe they sign a waiver saying like for like custom purchase too, but they can put it through its paces.
see what their feedback is. Does it actually get out mud? Does it get out pet fur? Does it actually give out something in a natural environment? Right? It's kind of hard to replicate that in like some artificial almost way. So, okay, and then
For
what
the,
about for the second one?
for the evidence one, where you kind of talk about like product launches, like sometimes when you have like a product launch, they have sometimes you'll see like a prototype on display. And then like, you know, they have representatives of the company where they'll be like, and potential customers be like, hey, tell me more about the product, or how can I cure one or something like that, or where can I find more information? And
Okay, so you're like, hey, put up prototypes and let customers ask questions.
Yeah. Or representatives.
Yeah, and those questions will kind of lead you to like, ooh,
But not just like sales representatives, like head of design or something like that, right? At like some of these product launches you see, these are big product launches.
okay. Yeah, interesting, right? It could be challenging, and it could take a lot of time sometimes to get information. But like I said before, you know, when you look at the reviews on products on Amazon, like, who here goes and looks at the 1 stars? Any of you ever go like, and like your first thing is like, forget everybody who gave it 4. Let me look at the 3 people who complain. Is that more real information about, you know, what's up with this product? Or is everybody who says it's wonderful, just go with that? So why do you do it? Like, why do you go see the 1 stars?
Cause I like to see like what would be wrong with it before I purchase it, but I do look at like the rest of like the 5 stars and see like what they like about it, so I see both sides of it.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I wanna see what's wrong first, right? Before I see what's right. Before I see what's right, I wanna see what's wrong. And if that wrong is so wrong, I'm not gonna buy it. I don't even need to see what's right, right? I just need to see what's wrong first. How about, you do that as well too?
Yeah, but for me, it's also like, when I look at what's wrong, I kind of want to see what be wrong with me true. Like, the whole thing about like the perception thing, like, the problem with you is not a problem with me.
Yeah.
So if someone's complaining about like,
If your wrong is the same as my wrong, now it's a
Yeah.
strong chance, I don't want this thing, right?
yeah,
But if your wrong is different than my wrong, I still may consider buying it.
yeah,
Right.
if it's like a shirt and they're like, oh, it tears super easily, like, that's an issue to me too. Versus if they're like, oh, you know, my washing machine chewed up, that's on the machine.
Yeah, yeah, if it's like a hoodie, like, think if it's a hoodie or a t-shirt or anything, you know, like, dude, you can't wash this shirt, you wash it, it shrinks 2 sizes. Like, okay, I don't want to own that. Yeah, like, that's too much of a wrong for anything else. So it's almost like, hey, it fades after 10 washing, you're like, no. Maybe I won't even wash it that much, if it's a hoodie or something, like, whatever, maybe I'll take this dry cleaner to solve that problem, or something. But, yeah, that's a good point, like, is the wrong so bad, or is it the same wrong that I have, right, as a consideration?
Yeah.
I want it. Okay, excellent. All right, but we got one word here today from Matthew, and we can get out of here.
advertise it as easy to clean, sheet safe, family friendly, and then it retails for $30 or $29.99.
I haven't really seen this many places. Where are people able to get it?
Amazon and their website. I'm sure it'll hit like Targets and Walmart and stuff too. It seems like a pretty generic product though. Like I don't think there's much else to go from there.
Were you able to read any reviews or testimonials about
The
it?
reviews are super high, but I also think that's like a very niche product. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If you have $30 to spend, it's
so $30
for one.
and you
not
don't want the water to run down or maybe splash on your forearms. Put these on and while you wash your face or while you're washing your dishes.
If you're more like a part of your skincare routine, like they have like the headbands that like pull your hair back so you can get your whole face. That's kind of like their whole take on it. Is part of your,
Restrict, yeah,
part
like-
of your routine.
Okay.
But I think it's kind of extra.
I mean, for $30,
Yeah.
like, and it's an extra step to do, like washing your face. You are with the market, right? So what's your initial impressions about this? Like when you're thinking of, hey, that'd be nice to have something to put on my wrist to prevent the splash, or going down my arms in the morning, washing my face.
Not paying $30 for it.
I would
No.
buy it for 10, but I would buy, I think it's such a smart product. Just
Yeah.
29 is crazy.
I feel like it's a smart product. The price, I'm like, dude, this is gonna show up on Shein and Temu for 99 cents. Shein and Temu for 99 cents, you know, 30 cents or something.
It's already on there. When I was
Yeah.
trying to find pictures for it, the first thing that popped up was the sheet version,
Yeah,
which it might be even cheaper to just get like a towel wrapped around your wrist at home.
so let me ask you, who is the target market? Like, who do you think that they had in mind would pay $30?
To me, it's like the teenager, like, you know, early high school, if you can convince them that this is part of the routine, you know, teenagers at that age, you have that, you know, you start, you know, doing more stuff with your skincare. If you can convince them this is part of like what it has to be, then you can convince them.
Alright, so that's a good point, like, hey, maybe if they market it to someone who's doing a skin routine,
Yeah.
right? Not just like basic washing your face, like that's pointless. But maybe people who are like into doing skin routines, or maybe even professionals who work on people's faces, right? Giving facials and stuff, that actually might be good. So maybe like a business to business kind of promotion,
Yeah.
as opposed to just business to, you know, maybe just customers or something like that. I could see that maybe being more of a,
I think it makes more sense about $30.
yeah, more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, send it to people who spending a lots of time doing facial, sort of routines. Okay. And maybe even like, all right, maybe business to business, you're like, all right, small restaurants where they're still using manual dishwashers, right? Like people who are, you know, small restaurant and people are washing dishes all the time, but like actually just keep that on your wrist, right? You can go do other stuff, but keep that on your wrist, and so the time you have to wash the dishes, and then go do other activities. It could maybe be promoted that way, I think probably better. Excellent, good job. Yeah, $30. You wouldn't use this? You wouldn't find it, be like, hey, I'll keep my phone in my pocket and look at YouTube on my hand? You know what I mean? Or-
I would so use it, I would use, the part, it's too small.
Too small. And do you know this like so it is interactive, like if it's on your hand, you can point and,
Yeah, it is interactive, but it's mostly, like, if you wanted to show, like, you have to talk to it.
gotcha. So it's more voice activated.
Yeah.
And that's an
So
issue
sometimes
too.
it's weird, like, to be walking around just like.
Yeah, and if it's crowded, you might be picking up other.
Yeah.
I think it's also weird too, you can't multitask with it like you do with your phone, like sometimes people are on like the phone while they eat or something like that, or watching something.
Yeah.
You can't multitask with that, so your hands are constantly.
Yeah, you're like, most of the time you need your hands,
Yeah.
right? For other things too, right? Okay, all right, excellent. Thanks for sharing. Now, I will say the projector feature, like, I do think that that's where smartphones are going to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine like if your smartphone can replace, you could project an 80-inch image. And they're like, there's no need for me to have a TV in the house no more. I can pull up my Netflix app, put it on the white wall or something like that and watch. Or I can pull it up in the classroom, I can do whatever, right? Or, interact, pull up all your apps anywhere on this table, touch it. And you're like, that, I think people would pay for that, and I do think that's where it's going. It's probably the technology's not there to be super high resolution and look, very real right now.
I have images on the second slide.
Hmm?
I have images on the second slide.
Uh,
So, another Instagram ad, just another one of those handy products. A lot of times, protein powder, hydrate powders, like, especially when it's being like a bottle, like people tend to spill it on the edge and everything. This kind of takes care of this issue, because it can be used for any kind of powder you can use for a baby formula, they said on the website. Where, like, you don't spill your powder everywhere, all that goes into the bottle very easily, because of the design and everything. So it also has like measurement markers on the side that keeps you clean, and the mechanism is, what they call slide and pour. And then it's also, they offer value pricing. You can buy like, say, like one for this price, maybe like four for what, like just about like $10 less than what one would normally cost or something like that. So this is the way the funnel works, like funnel is, so you can, it has like this mechanism where you slide, you can line it up with the water bottle, you open the bottom and it'll pour all the way directly in without spilling all over the place. And then it also has like a measurement marker on the side to know how much you're doing. And, yeah, you can use it.
I think that's pretty useful, right? Saying baby formula for people with children, creatine, protein powder, protein shakes, spilling and measuring. All right, what are your thoughts? Would you buy this for your, on my protein shake, protein powder people? Yeah. Anyone own something like this to measure?
It was like $2.
So what are you doing in terms of measuring like protein powder now to like put in drinks?
They have just the scoop and they just say 1 or 2 scoops.
Gotcha. So it's just a scoop, sort of a predetermined scoop, 2 scoops,
Yeah.
and that takes away the measuring.
The only issue with a lot of those, like, they don't have like the thing, you sometimes you pour it into something, you spill it all over the place, because it, like, sometimes, like, not everyone's using like a shaker or a
Yeah,
normal water bottle, like a little cup at home.
yeah,
Using like the smart water bottles, like ice pop bottles, which makes it a little bit.
gotcha. So it's gonna have some spillage or some places.
And you can put the product on the sheet.
All right, excellent.
Right there.
Yeah, good illustration. Thank you, Matthew. All right, everyone, that's it for today. Have a good weekend, and